Hello, I am Sophie welcome back to my channel, and welcome to, me writing an entire book. It's a weird vlog. I don't know what happened, time kind of flew. But yeah, we're writing the entire first book of the Project Star trilogy today. Not literally, but in this video, yes. So, actually, technically, by the time I started filming this, I had already written a little bit in it. I think I had maybe 2 or 3 chapters done before I, actually started vlogging. Besides that, the whole novel is in this. Also, I am filming this on July 4th. Happy July 4th, I guess. So if you hear continuous popping noises, I sincerely apologize. The people in my neighborhood like to go all out with the fireworks, unfortunately. So you're gonna be hearing a little bit of that. Again, I apologize. Let's begin. So, I feel like I talked about this in other videos as well, but originally, my goal for this novel was to finish it by the end of May. I'm assuming that you can infer by the publication date of this video that that did not happen. That was not even very close to happening at any point either. This novel, for the most part, was kind of slow going. It was slow going, but it was going. I had consistently been putting words into the doc. It just wasn't the amount of words that I would have needed in order to actually hit that goal, because it was a very short timeline to write that book. I was getting words in every day, like around 500 to 1,000 a day on average, so I was getting written. It just was not getting written as fast as I needed it to be, because if I did want to get it done, I feel like more realistically I would have to hit like 3,000 to 5,000 words a day to get it done in May. So that clearly didn't happen when 1K was probably like on the higher end of the words I could get in one day, but progress was being made, and that's what matters. That is truly what matters. And my one saving grace, my life saver for this book as a whole, were these little guys. It's a Target brand legal pad, and this one's completely full. This one even has like an extra page because I ran out of paper. But I have been writing in these at work when it is slow. So for the entirety of this novel, this was like the #1 thing that got me through actually getting words every day, because this is where most of my daily words would come from. I have this one, and I have one more that I'm still using. It has like 10 pages left in it, but seriously, it's great. And because it's not like a cute little notebook, I feel like it's easier to be like, oh, I can make this look ugly. Like, as you can see, I was losing a paper on the front, so I literally just taped it. But I think because there's no real expectation on like a cover or anything to make it look cute on the inside too, I could do whatever I wanted. So if you're struggling with handwriting and you feel like it doesn't look nice enough to put in your notebooks, get a legal pad. Get a legal pad and mess that thing up. It's a disaster, but it works. And it works really well. So, now that we have that covered, let's get into the good, the bad, and the plans for the future. Doesn't really work, but let's start with the bad. We're gonna always start with the bad so we can end on a good note. First of all, there were a couple plot holes that I caught while I was writing that like really slowed me down. You kind of want to patch those before you keep writing and make it worse. But there were 2 connected to each other. They were 2 plot holes connected to each other that really just stopped me in my tracks. The first was the fact that the enemy alien group, the Alturi, which if you don't know about them, go watch this video. I yap about them a lot in that. But the enemy group, the Alturi, why do they need to try and track down my 2 main characters? Because for the entire story, they are on the run. They are on the run. They are staying away from their home station because the initial idea, and the idea that I'm keeping, is that the Alturi do not know where the human space city is. Space is big. A lot of things are moving. There's no way you can keep a specific location for one thing for very long, especially if it has no other tethering points, really. Like, the Alturi's planet is locatable because it has a bunch of like travel routes like surrounding it, because it's a major player in like intergalactic commerce and like relations. So they're easily locatable because almost every other species knows about them. But the human ship is pretty not well known. They're relatively new to the playing field. They've been traveling and they've been a thing for about 1,000 years, pretty much, but they've really only settled down and become a part of this community, this super community, for maybe at the most like 40, 50 years. So not much is known about the humans in this world, like in regards to other species out there. So the Alturi do not know where the ship is, and they need the ship because they are convinced that humans have a technology that can help them, and they think it is hidden on the ship, or that it is a part of the ship, and they need to find it in the ship to use it for themselves. So the idea is that they are trying to follow my two main characters back to the ship. They're trying to, like, exhaust their resources enough to where they have to go back to their home ship to, like, re-up and know the location and infiltrate it and try and find this technology that they're convinced exists. So that was fine. That was the original idea, okay? That worked. Well, that patched up the hole, because it's like, why would the Alturi care? Why would the Alturi care to chase these two children, technically, around because they're like 17, 18? Why would the Alturi care to chase these children around the Milky Way when they could go directly to the human leader, my female main character's father, who is actually going to be making the decision of whether or not they want to work with the Alturi? Why would they not just go to him? And that was the solution. They don't know where this ship is. They cannot find it. They need someone to take them to it, essentially. And then, off of that, I figured that out. I figured out the fact that they don't even know where the ship is. Awesome, 10 out of 10, good work. Then I realized that my main characters are originally a part of a crew of like 16 people. Everyone originally is supposed to be sent home. They are a crew that goes to the Alturi planet to do some, like, bargaining, to assimilate, to start some good relations. At the end of their stay, the Alturi kick everyone out except for my female main character. She's the only one that's supposed to stay. Everyone else is supposed to go home. My male main character ends up staying as well, but everyone else on the crew leaves. They leave, they go home. So that would be a perfect opportunity for the Alturi to follow them back to the human ship, right? That would be perfect. They would already know where it is. They would not care about my main characters. The story would be over, okay? So I had to try and figure out a way to make that not true. What I came up with, and it might not be completely logical on the Alturi side, but essentially my idea is that they were not worried about the rest of the crew. The Alturi were so focused on my female main character as a sort of bargaining tool that they just sent the rest of the crew home. They sent him home with a message for the captain of their ship, my female main character's father, so that they had more, like, an upper hand in the bargaining, I guess. It was more like a hostage situation, kind of. So since they still had my main character for the bargaining, they did not see a reason to follow the rest of this crew, right? Give the humans an illusion of choice, an illusion of making a decision to allow the Alturi to, like, come and infiltrate them. So, yeah. Like, they're still using my female main character as a bargaining tool, so they were not focused on following the rest of her crew back home. I don't know if that works entirely, but that's what I'm going with. That's how I patched it up while writing. And in the end, they still do not know where the ship is. And that's crucial, because that's a main issue, or not issue, but it's a main factor in book 2. So they have to not know where the ship is. I think it works. I think it's okay. I think we're good. I hope it's okay. That's a revision problem. If I need to patch it up better, I'll patch it up better. But for right now, it works, okay? It works. Second issue I saw was prose. Prose as a whole. Everything just sounds so elementary and so simple, and I know I shouldn't be worrying about this because it's literally a 0 draft, and, like, the last thing you should be worrying about is prose. It hurts, okay? It hurts to, like, type out and say, yeah, this is good enough to keep. But I need to keep telling myself this is a 0 draft of a story I have not touched in 2 or 3 years, and it is not going to sound like draft 3 of Project What, or like my second draft of Project Glass. Like, it is not going to sound like that. This is literally the foundational draft for this entire series. It can only get better. It can only get better, and it's not going to sound like draft 2, draft 3, even like a draft 1, since this is draft 0. Like, it's gonna sound bad, but still, it was a little disheartening to be like, yeah, this is the the standards that I've stooped to. And on that note as well, comparison. Comparison has been running rampant during this writing process. Not even to like Project What or Project Glass or any of my more developed stories, which those are really the only two more developed stories, but also to the original first draft of Project Star. If you're not aware, I did write the first book of this series in 2021? 2022? I think it was 2021. I still adore that draft. I think there's so many cute little one-liners in there. My male main character is just the best in that draft, and I love him to bits. We'll touch more on that in a little bit, but I love that draft still. That quarantine brain was really working, and it made a really good draft. Well, really good. It made a decent zero draft that I really liked. You might be saying, oh, why don't you use that one for this draft? Because I needed to infuse all the things for the series, and that needed to all be added, and just in general, the writing style itself wasn't awesome. I feel like that I did have the one-liners, some of them did cook, and I did still like those lines, but as a whole, it was written somewhat weird. It had a weird style to it. I definitely have more of a voice now. That doesn't sound like that, but still, those one-liners, that character dialogue, it still sits with me, and I feel like I had not been able to write stuff like that in this version of the draft. It makes me a little sad. It makes me a little sad. I would keep going back to that original draft to try and find references for myself, to keep myself in the same sort of headspace that I wanted to be for specific events or specific scenes. And then I would just keep reading, and I would catch all the lines that I really liked. And I was like, dang, I really have not written like a single one of these that I like in this zero draft as much as I liked the ones in the original. And that got a little sad, to the point where I just closed the original draft and I'm like, I'm not even gonna look at it. This is like a whole new story, pretty much. Not really, but like, I'm gonna pretend it's a whole new story. We're not gonna base it off of that. It's okay. We're good. We're good and we're okay. And once again, it is a zero draft. Both of them are zero drafts. And this is the one I'm working on now. It's gonna be 10 times better than whatever I wrote in 2021. But still, I'd love quarantine brain back. It was crazy. Bring me back. Take me back. Okay, then finally, the last sort of issue I spotted while I was writing was the fact that I don't set up any romance in this story, because there is a romance. It's a slow burn. It's an incredibly slow burn. But even if it is a slow burn, I still need to set it up. And I did not set it up pretty much at all, outside of the fact that I mentioned that my male main character has a massive crush on my female main character. Which was very fun to write, I'll admit. Outside of that, not much else was going on for the for the book talk girlies. I'm just kidding. Ew. These are children. These are children. Do not let book talk get a hold of this. Oh my god. Never mind. I had one more issue. Looking at my script, I'm stupid. Thank god I wrote it down though. The final issue I really thought I had with this was the fact that I think the plot is a little too simple. It's very to the point, which maybe as a zero draft, that's what you need. But there's not really any like secondary stories, no B story. We don't really, I feel like the story isn't super rounded out. It feels like, in my head, I can see it. The beginning of the story feels nice and rounded out, till we get to the point where my female main character is being held hostage and then eventually runs away or escapes and is now on the run. And it's kind of just sort of thins out, and now it's really skinny, and it's really skinny, and it's really skinny. And then we get to the end, where the end is like the last 2 chapters, where we get my male main character's resolution. And the one question he had at the beginning of the book is essentially answered. And it finally fills back up. But, like, it's literally like that. And I need to beef up the middle. It needs to be like that. You know? Yeah, it just feels too simple in the middle, where we're just focused on one thing and one thing only. And I feel like there just needs to be a little more variety, a little more stakes, a little more just substance in it. Now, this is where planning began to take a little bit of a turn. Just a slight alteration in what I wanted to do. At this point as well, I was like 3 weeks out on my due date. I wanted to be done at the end of May. Done. June 1st was a whole new slate. We were going to start book 2. And it was like June 19th, June 20th. I still did not have this book done. And I was a little bit past the midpoint, I think. I had a revelation. I had an idea. I thinked a thunk. I thunk a thinked? I don't know. I made the awesome and super realistic and super cool plan to write the rest of the book before the end of the week. By that I mean by Sunday. And for context, I made this goal on Thursday. So I had Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday to write the rest of the book. And that I estimated would be about 20,000 words. So that meant 20,000 words, 4 days. That is 4 5K days in a row. That was my plan, that was the goal, that's what we were doing, okay? And I was very committed. I was like, I'm gonna stick to this, I'm gonna be done on Sunday. Spoiler alert, I wasn't done on Sunday. It took 2 extra days, but I think it was that super, like, I'm going to finish it kind of mindset that even allowed me to be done 2 days late. Because for my May goal, I wasn't super, like, set on it. I was like, it would be nice. Like, I hadn't even really convinced myself that that would work. But this time around, I was like, I can do this. This will work. I also think the reason that it actually did end up working was because after the midpoint, after we've turned the story and we're closing in on, like, some sort of resolution, I can get those words out a lot quicker. That second half of the story goes by a lot faster. So I was like, okay, I feel like at this point in the story, it could be done. And also the fact that we were closing in on Camp Nano and I did not even have book 2 outlined. And with my goal being finished book 2, that was a little scary. Like, we can't even start book 2 right now. Like, we need to get moving. It was crunch time. It was time to cook, time to lock in. It was time to actually, like, write for real. So I averaged about 3,000 words a day. This was both writing at work on my trusty dusty little legal pad, but some of it came from those while I was at work, and most of it just came from drafting late into the night. Late night drafting. I truly am a night owl. I love writing at night. I think it really puts me in my element, not gonna lie. But as I was pumping out scenes, most of which ended up decent, I do think they turned out pretty good, I was finding that the action scenes, for the most part, were kind of falling flat. And that's when I did the unforgivable for a 0 draft, and that is rewrite the scenes. Completely start over. I deleted the whole thing. Sometimes I kept some bits that I actually did like, but most of the time, it was cut it all, we're gonna start over. Probably not something you should be doing with a 0 draft, especially if you're trying to fast draft. Each time I did it, which was like 3 times, not a ton of times, but each time I did it, the scene ended up literally like 10 times better than it would have been if I had just left it. It served as such good motivation for me, because it was like, see, if you come back around, you approach it again, you can write a lot better than before. Because I'm telling you, these scenes before I rewrote them were actually like horrifically bad. Like, they were so like, and then he did this, and then he did this, and then he saw this, and then he did this, and it was so boring. It was so boring. And then by the time I had rewritten it and it was over, so much better. And it was like, wow, okay, maybe I am capable. Maybe I am capable of writing a decent action scene. They definitely need more help. They definitely need more help. It takes me probably a couple drafts before I have an action scene that I actually like. Shout out Project What? But for a 0 draft, much better than it could have been. Hello. It's extremely dark and I apologize for that. Also, I haven't done one of these updates this entire time, and you've probably been listening to a recap for this entire vlog, but I'm coming on here because this is a special occasion. This is a special occasion because I'm 2 chapters away from finishing this book. And word-wise, I would say that's probably like 2,000 words. These are very short chapters right now because one is an action chapter, it's like a chase sort of thing. The second is a sort of cool down. It's the conclusion of the book. We get closure on one of the main characters' goals that I established at the beginning of the book, and it pushes forward the entire series into the second and third books. They're significant, obviously. Everything you write in your book should be somewhat significant, right? But also very short scenes. One, because I'm not very good at writing action the first time around. This draft that I'm writing right now is basically just a glorified outline, especially for the action scenes or where like a lot of stuff has to happen. It comes out very anecdotal, and that is basically an outline of the actions I want my characters to take and the beats I want to hit in each scene. And in later drafts I can add all the fluff, all the prose, all the stuff that makes the scene really pop. But for right now, it's basically just notes. Glorified set of notes. And I'm gonna write it tonight. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna try and write it tonight. I'm going to write it tonight. We're going to do it. It's going to happen. It's 1 in the morning and I need to be up tomorrow for work. If I can write it quickly and I can get it done in the next hour and 15 minutes, that would be really good. That would be really awesome. My only thing is I do not want to stay up past 3. If I can get it done before 3 in the morning, that will be done. But 3 o'clock, it's going to be my cutoff. So either the draft is done tonight or I am defeated at 3 a.m. But I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to get into it. Okay, hi. I'm gonna make this quick. I lied. Yesterday, I got maybe 200 more words after doing that little spiel about finishing the book last night and went to sleep because my brain genuinely could not come up with words. We're here, take 2. I'm gonna do it. It's 8 p.m. I have many hours until I'll probably end up going to sleep. So we're gonna use them. I'm gonna finish this book. I'm gonna do it. It's gonna be done. Okay, let's go. Okay, party people, guess what? I'm going to be doing this final thoughts thing with my headphones on because if I take these off right now, I'm gonna look stupid. So just deal with it, okay? Anyways, it's done. It's done. The first book, the 0 draft, I was gonna call it the first draft. This is a 0 draft, okay? It is complete. It is complete. And I've printed it out. Because what's new with me, my idea for this, if all goes well, is that I will put the entire trilogy into a mini binder all together, so then I can revise them all together. But for right now, I have book 1. I have book 1, so I'm gonna chat a little bit with you guys right now while I fold this up and get it ready to be put in a binder that I do not own yet. First and foremost, the ending I wrote, I'm pretty sure I like it a lot more than the original 0 draft. It pretty much follows the same notes. It's literally the same scene. I just kind of jazzed it up a little bit. I switched the point of view that we see the ending scene in. It used to be my female main character's point of view that the book ended in. Now it ends in my male main character's point of view. It just makes more sense. This ending scene is the end of his arc. The problem that he wanted to solve in this book is solved in the final scene. He gets the answers he's wanted this entire time. So it makes a lot of sense for the book to end in his point of view, and I also think it added a lot to the sort of grief and sense of responsibility that we feel at the end, I guess. So I think that ended very well. The action leading up to the end of the book needs to be rewritten. It's very boring right now, which I expect from a 0 draft, I won't lie. I'm not very good at writing very tense, action-y scenes where it feels like the characters aren't going to be getting out of it alive the first time around. That will definitely take another draft or 2 to really make interesting. But for right now, they get the characters from point A to point B. It's a little exciting. That works for me. Oh, I wanted to see how much I wrote in the last 4 days, because It feels like a lot. I feel like it's like 12,000 words. I'm gonna stop folding this real quick so I can actually figure that out. Let's see. So, this is where we're starting. This very line, all the way down. Let's see. Oh my god, I am so accurate. That's crazy. Let's go. So that's like 3,000 words a day. That is incredibly good for me. That is impressive, okay? So 12,000 words wrapped up the story from what I thought was gonna be 20,000 words. I will not lie. I had hit what I thought would be the middle of the story, word count wise, a couple of days before I decided, you know what? I'm going to try and finish this book by Sunday. Sunday was 2 days ago. Did not finish it on Sunday, but I was steadfast. I really wanted it done. I was like, if I can get it done this weekend, that means I have a little over a week to outline book 2, finish outlining book 2, and have that ready for Camp Nano, which is coming up so soon, and that's terrifying. So tomorrow we're diving straight into the outline. I can get to writing book 2 because that sounds insane to me. That sounds insane. Let me just start writing book 2. Let me just continue this series. It's a little daunting because that's gonna be all new material. Every single thing that is going to be in book 2 is gonna be new. I'm not transferring any scenes from the original version of the story over to that book. Like, there's nothing there for me to latch onto that I've already written before, except for the characters, I guess, and the world. I'm excited. I'm scared. It's probably gonna be a really messy zero draft because, once again, I have no backbone to to stand with this time around, but that's okay because, once again, zero draft, it's fine, and the series will grow. The series will grow over time, and what matters is just getting the story down in the first place. Anyways, I'm gonna finish folding these up, and I will take you back to recap me, to wrap this video up. Yeah. 2 days out from my revised deadline, that was 3 weeks out from my original deadline, we did it. The book was completed. She is a complete story, and it ended up at like 48,000 words, which, not bad. Honestly, I thought it would be in the 50,000, 60,000 word range. My original goal on the program I use, Papyrus Author, was 60,000 words because the beginning of the story, which I know pretty well, was ending up very beefy. Much beefier than I expected it to be. So I was like, okay, we gotta move this up. Because originally I thought the draft was gonna be 40,000 words. I was like, okay, based on these numbers, it is not going to be 40,000 words. I bumped it up to 60,000. In the end, it ended up around 48,000. So those parts that I did not know very well ended up pretty short. With more drafts, everything will get longer. I don't know if it'll get Project What longer, which is like 130,000 words, but it'll definitely get longer. I'm hoping for about 80k. But now that we're done and it's complete, let's talk about the good things that I noticed while writing. First up, physics knowledge and making things seem more realistic. Now that I'm more into that kind of stuff, because I'm actually in school for it, and I'm actually studying it and how it works, and, you know, learning more of the specifics behind it. I'm not like shoving physics terminology or anything like into the story where it does not need to be, but just applying it at the points where it makes most sense, trying to figure out where my characters would be in just free fall constantly with no gravity, and where they would have less gravity, where they would have more gravity, just how that would work. And I feel, just for me at least, someone who is like a stickler for that, I guess, but someone who noticed that, I guess, made me feel better. Made me feel like my world was a little more realistic. Also with that, I wanted to try and factor in how technology would work, because my characters do have these boots that they wear. They're like a ship-wide issued kind of thing that create their own force of gravity to keep you down, to keep you on the ground, especially in places with low or no gravity, or whatever you deem down, obviously. So I was trying to make something that would be more realistic with that. Obviously, you can't really get super realistic. That's complete fantasy. Gravity boots. Though, maybe not. I don't know. I was trying to use what I know now to implement into that sort of technology, along with other things, how ships work, how ships operate, how other aliens approach this sort of thing. Like, are they affected by zero gravity? Do they need to simulate false gravity, like, to exist outside of their planets? Like, how strong their gravity on their planet affects how well they do in space. Stuff like that. Super awesome, interesting, fun things. Like that nobody will care about except me, the writer, who knows all the context for this. Yeah, and along with that also how traveling worked, especially accounting for time, because like in this part of the galaxy, we're still in the Milky Way, because it would honestly be impossible to not be, I think, realistically, without just being in deep, dark space with nothing around you. So, in my story, the humans stayed in the Milky Way. They've been traveling through the Milky Way. They end up in a pocket of the galaxy that is relatively highly populated with intelligent life. That being said, things are still light years apart. That being said, these super, super highly intelligent aliens have made technology that is like a wormhole. Yeah? So that cuts down on travel time. Cuts down what could be years of travel into a matter of hours. Because we're folding space. Yay! But the creation of these wormholes is kind of like putting up a freeway. Where you need one, they can be put. Only by the people who have created them, because if done wrong, you get 2 black holes. And kill anyone who's inside, if they are inside. Factoring in how they cut down distance, through time, and also the fact that over time, more and more of these wormholes, they have a name, I'm sorry, but these wormholes, more of them are put out into space to better connect people. It's like going from walking on feet to using cars, and then to using transcontinental boats to using planes. Like, over time, as more and more open, the galaxy becomes more connected, and how that affects history in a sense. In human history in this world, there is a crew that goes from the Space City ship to another planet in an attempt to colonize it. Or to, settle down. Colonize is a scary word, but in an attempt to, take it over, terraform it, create a new human planet. When they do leave, it takes 6 years for them to get there. And this is about, 10, 15 years ago from present, and it takes 6 years for them to reach this planet that's 2 light years away, and that's with the wormholes. If it was not with the wormholes, it would take, hundreds of thousands of years. As the humans in this world have become better accustomed to using these wormholes and have built better connections with the species around them, they have gotten more wormhole connections near where their ship is, which has cut down on travel time a lot. Now, from the Space City ship to this planet that took 6 years to get to, it takes a matter of hours. In total, it probably takes less than a day. Literally takes less than a day, because of how many connections have been added near them. So being able to figure that out, and that logic, and hopefully making it work. I think it works, but just that history, it's not really something that gets mentioned a ton, but it is a part of it. As humans become more integrated into this society, this mega society, they get more literally physically connected with it by getting these wormholes put in nearby as demand increases. Once again, super riveting stuff. I'm so sorry. Anyways, second good thing that I found was world building. Just in general, I feel like it makes it more realistic. I feel like what I just talked about kind of sells that point. The logistics and everything behind everything, especially for the Ulturi, I feel like I really grounded them in a sense. They are one of the most intelligent species in this part of the galaxy, and yet they still worship the stars and the moons that orbit their planet. They still see water as a sacred entity, which they did deplete on their planet, so it only makes sense that they see what's remaining of it as something of a blessing. But I feel like I made them slightly more realistic, not just this looming alien species that's like just there for plot. And also in the writing itself, like in writing the book, I feel like I was able to expand the world more naturally, just like ease it in to the story, introduce it, and it just made it feel more real to me. Like this was a world that I could live in as well, because it's like you don't get info dumped on a daily basis to figure out the world, right? You get little tidbits, you get little snippets where you kind of just fill in the context around it. And I feel like I was able to do that in this story, and not just like just do that, but like introduce a lot more information than I feel like I would have in the original Zero Draft. It all just felt more real. Yeah. And then characterization, I felt like, was on the up and up. At least for my female main character, I gave her a more solid purpose, a more solid reputation. She is the captain's daughter on this ship that holds what they think is the last of humanity. And obviously, everyone on this ship knows who she is. It's like the royal family, essentially, and people don't like her because she's kind of cold, she's kind of, not snappy, but she's not very friendly. She's not a very personable person. So people don't like her. And I feel like that gives her a more solid place to build from. If I can establish that clearly at the beginning of the trilogy, at the beginning of the story, and we get to the end where she is, like, beloved, pretty much, right? No spoilers, but spoilers. I feel like that's nice and satisfying. Also, her dialogue was so much better. At least at the beginning. I feel like I might have lost it towards the end. But at the beginning, she does give off that, like, sort of cold, like, standoffish, like, I'm only here for business kind of vibe, which I do rock with, because that's her. That's her, and that's me as well. If you ever meet me in public, I'm sorry. Now, I cannot say the same for my male main character. I feel like his was sort of slacking. Like I said already, in the Zero Draft, the original Zero Draft number 1, he had great characterization. I loved all his dialogue. I loved his thought process. He was very chaotic, and he very much said what was on his mind all the time, and he would not shut up, ever. And I love that about him. But this time around, I feel like that got very subdued, especially as we got further into the story. I think the first 2 or 3 chapters, it was pretty good. I did enjoy him just being a nuisance by existing. Like, that's just his job. Towards the end, it does kind of fall apart, and I'd like to keep that up, because he never change. Never change. And finally, for the good, I will admit, I think the plot is solid. You might be saying, you literally just said that you thought the plot was too simple and that it needed to be beefed up, which is true. But as a skeleton, as a base, as a beginning, I think this is very good. I think it's very good. I don't think there's a ton that actually has to be changed. I don't think any of it really has to be changed. I feel like maybe just adding to it. Like I said, it feels like that. So just adding to this skinny part to make it more substantial, I think that's really the move that has to be done. But in itself, I feel like the story is good. I feel like it's okay. If it's good, I don't think I'll have to do too many changes to it, which is comforting. Now, the book is complete. We've talked about the bad. We've talked about the good. What is the future plans? I don't think anyone's surprised, but I have already printed out this book. It is on paper. It is out in the world. Well, out in the world, as in I have a copy of it. And honestly, I'm just gonna let it rest. I'm gonna let it sit for however long it takes me to write books 2 and 3, and then I will be revising them all together. So she is just gonna sit for now until I realize it's time to revise all 3 books. Obviously, I already know some issues that I need to fix. Just talked about them here. But hopefully with enough distance, which is going to be a lot of distance, probably 2 to 4 more months before I look at this book again. Hopefully with distance, I can get a better view of what's even going on in this book. But that is it. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out. We have moved swiftly into book 2. As I said at the beginning, July 4th is the day I am filming this. So we are in Camp Nano. Camp Nano means book 2. So I will have some videos out for camp about all that. How is your writing going? If you are doing camp, how is camp going? But let me know everything in the comments, and hope to see you in the next one. Peace.